Welcome to Wild Horse Rights. My name is Frederick. Today we are talking about romance stories. Romance plotlines. Romance stories typically begin with a chance meeting. They can also begin with two characters trapped in an awkward situation or circumstance which forces them to team up or become a couple. Conflict is introduced. Their hero flaws or external factors cause the lovers to separate or grow to distrust one another. For example, former lovers reappear, parents or relatives tear them apart, a war rages, or there is some horrible misunderstanding which leads to a rift between characters. However, the lovers eventually come to realize that they belong together. They often are forced to give up something important in order to be with their significant other. It could be status, wealth, or even their own pride. Their sacrifice enables the wounded party to heal and the relationship to move forward, hopefully leading to a storybook ending. Romance novels are unique in that you can combine the genre with other genres. If you like fantasy, make a fantasy-themed romance. If you like horror, have your lovebirds get trapped in a haunted house together. Dirty scenes. The first rule to writing intimate scene is that you should never write something you are uncomfortable with. It will be more like an instruction manual or assembly guide than an intimate experience. Or worse yet, you might end up overcompensating and fall victim to purple prose. Purple prose is flowery, cowardly writing which uses metaphors and euphemisms to describe intimate interactions or details. If you search for purple prose online, you will likely find enough material to keep you laughing for days on end. If you are more comfortable alluding to intimate scenes, then do just that. If you are willing to step out of your comfort zone, you can write intimate scenes just like you would any other scene. Use descriptions which do not rely solely on visual cues. Be sure that the scenes accomplish a purpose and furthers the plot of the story. Be less concerned about how the deed is carried out and more concerned with the emotions behind it. Ask yourself, is this something your character even wants to do? How do their personalities and life experiences influence the scene? How do the characters change after the experience? There is a time and place for everything. Don't stop the action of your story in order to include a dirty scene. Your characters shouldn't decide to engage in an intimate activity while investigating a murder scene, especially if the bodies are only one hallway away. And yes, we've seen romance novels do this before. If you intend to write these types of scenes gratuitously, perhaps consider the fact that your audience will quickly tire of repeated intimate encounters, as each scene will be less powerful than the previous scene. Clichés to avoid. Here are some clichés to avoid. The special magic girl syndrome. Having a female lead that is in some way irresistible to paranormal suitors. She can have special blood, powers, or be unnaturally attractive. This has been so overdone that nearly every paranormal romance novel has a special magic girl at its center. If your story manages to be picked up by a major publishing company, you might have a chance to stand out. But chances are they are flooded with sample manuscripts with a similar theme or plot. Even if you self-publish online, you will be lost in a sea of special magic girl novels and short stories. If you want your heroine to have powers, Make sure they are clearly established at the beginning of the novel. Though the powers may cause her to run into the paranormal hunk, they should by no means be the only reason the hero notices her. She should be fully developed with a unique personality and physical traits, which readers can identify with. Don't be tempted to make her a gorgeous enchantress with limitless power. The church mouse is a female lead which has no real personality or distinguishable traits. They are always being carried off or rescued and usually have no experience with love or intimacy. These characters are popular in young adult fiction as they enable the reader to insert themselves into the story without disturbing the loosely strung plot. The church mouse is a character no one will ever remember, and if your readers can't remember your character, it is unlikely that they will pick up another installment. There are some popular exceptions to the rule, but keep in mind they are few and far between. The fact that there are numerous parodies and satires about these novels is enough evidence to show most readers have no respect or appreciation for church mice. You should be able to pick your heroine out of a lineup of church mice. She should be loud, boisterous, and assertive. She won't let the hero walk over her, and she is perfectly capable of rescuing herself. In fact, you might have a hard time keeping her locked up. She should have a will and mind of her own, so that readers will always remember her exploits. You can still insert enough characteristics to allow most readers to identify with your character without transforming them into a church mouse. Next is the Anachronistic Alice, a heroine that is ahead of her time, too far ahead. They are sarcastic, overly assertive, wisecracking, and totally independent of men in a time when women's rights movement hadn't even been conceived. These types of characters are often created when the author tries to include modern thinking or political statements in historic fiction. Either the author has an agenda to push, or they simply can't understand or tolerate the mindsets of women in pre-modern times. However, they fail to acknowledge basic facts, like the fact that during the Middle Ages, husbands were legally allowed to beat their wives so long as they weren't killed or permanently disfigured. It is unlikely you would find an extremely unruly wife who defies social order and her husband. Women were more subtle in their manipulations for power and freedom. They were quick-witted but slow of tongue. Try researching women who lived during the time period your novel takes place in. Ordinary women didn't often leave written accounts, but some noble women and royalty left behind detailed journals about their lives. Ensure your characters do not reference events which took place in modern times. Make sure no modern clothing or invention finds its way into your story. Many authors have successfully overcome this cliché by transporting a modern woman to a past civilization or culture through time travel. It makes the heroine much more interesting and believable. It also creates unique, entertaining interactions between the modern woman and her medieval man. The Harem Anime. When an author includes multiple lovers or love interests with shallow personalities and exaggerated physical traits in order to make the hero look more attractive, or to justify excessive intimate scenes. It is the literary version of a pack of crayons. Each man or woman represents a stereotyped set of hair and eye colors, sometimes even skin color as well. Usually these love interests are about as interesting as a crayon. In order to avoid this cliché, limit the number of lovers or love interests your character has at any given point in your story. You can do this by cutting out boring characters and working on a few that actually hold your reader's attention and make them blush. You can also combine some of the many fractured personalities and walking physical traits into a single solid character your readers would fall in love with. Make sure there is a justifiable reason for having multiple lovers. Please don't make it a requirement for the hero to have intimate relations in order to power up. You can have multiple love interests without ever allowing your characters to make love. A love triangle might be a great addition to your story, but it need not devolve into debauchery. The Fatalistic Love. A heroine or hero who suddenly become depressed to the point of death after being separated from their love interest. Perhaps this level of sadness might make sense if the couple had been together for several decades. In real life, when an elderly person passes away, usually their spouse dies shortly after. But if your character suddenly wants to harm themselves after breaking up with the guy they picked up at the bar a few weeks ago, your character needs therapy, not true love. Romeo and Juliet often serves as the inspiration for many romance plot lines. But the author seems to forget the ending of the play and the fact that this is a tragedy, not a romance. They also seem to have missed the point Shakespeare was trying to make. Many people misinterpret the message of the story as love conquers all. Unfortunately, love doesn't conquer death. 2 lives were destroyed because of rash decisions and love at first sight. Despite the fact that they were barely old enough to be aware of their own existence, Romeo and Juliet pursued a romance that endangered their lives and the lives of their feuding loved ones. Their relationship went against all reason and common sense. The story is only believable because Romeo and Juliet were young and irrational. This type of relationship should not take place between 2 normal, well-adjusted adults. If you are considering writing a romance which includes fatalistic love, reconsider whether or not you are actually writing romance or a tragedy. Making a mountain out of a molehill. When the author creates drama out of non-consequential actions or occurrences. Here's an example. Jimmy drops Samantha's toast and the relationship is over. These types of events are not only unbelievable, they are insulting to the reader's intelligence. It is a method employed by novice authors to try and add tension to a plot lacking substance and true conflict. Eliminate all minor squabbles between your lead characters. It is unnecessary and gets old quickly. No one wants to read the argument that you would overhear in a supermarket. Instead of creating a series of pointless disagreements, have a small misunderstanding snowball into a series of larger life-changing events. This adds real drama and conflict to your story. The resolution will be much more meaningful and provide character growth. Let's go back to our example. Let's say that Jimmy drops Samantha's toast. She grows angry with him and he rushes to pick it up. Jimmy ends up crashing into his kitchen table and he is paralyzed on one side of his body. Now Samantha can't live with herself and she feels responsible for his injury. Not only does she have to cope with her guilt, they have to find a way to make their relationship survive with the new challenges posed by Jimmy's disability. You see? Way more interesting than just putting more bread into the toaster. If you liked our video, please like and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions or requests, please leave it in the comments below. Thank you.